When a student whispered a secret to Donald Trump during a school visit, he was left speechless and unsure of what to do. What happened next shocked everyone and changed the course of his day. Watch as secrets unfold and emotions run high in this unexpected twist. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and please complete our 1,000 subscribers for more inspiring stories. Donald Trump had always been known for his larger-than-life persona and sharp wit. So when he made a surprise visit to a local school in New York City, it was no ordinary event. The students, already buzzing with excitement, eagerly awaited his appearance. For most of them, this was the kind of once-in-a-lifetime experience that would shape their memories for years to come. As Trump walked into the school's gymnasium, his trademark confidence was immediately evident. The crowd went wild. There was no denying the impact he had as a former president, but what really made this day special was his ability to connect with the younger generation. He had a knack for making the crowd feel like they were a part of something much bigger than themselves. He started with a speech, filled with his characteristic humor and charm. He told stories about his time in office, about the decisions that changed the world, and even joked about the ups and downs of his political career. The students laughed, some of them in awe of his directness and boldness. Others, younger ones, simply admired the larger-than-life figure before them, unsure of whether to laugh or take him seriously. Among the students was a quiet 14-year-old named Alex. He wasn't the kind to easily get starstruck, but today, standing in the presence of Donald Trump, he felt a sense of unease. He had been hearing rumors for days, rumors about the future, about something that could change everything for the former president. The words had been floating in his mind for days, and now, in this very moment, it felt like the right time to share what he knew. As the crowd grew quieter and the event shifted into a Q&A session, Alex found himself standing up. His heart pounded in his chest. There was a sense of urgency in his actions, something he couldn't ignore. The students turned to look at him, some puzzled, others curious. Trump, ever the showman, noticed him immediately. "What's on your mind, kid?" Trump asked with a smirk, sensing that Alex had something important to say. The room went still. Everyone's attention shifted to Alex. The usual buzz of excitement had faded into an expectant silence. The moment felt like it was suspended in time. Alex took a deep breath. "Mr. President," he began, his voice shaking slightly but resolute, "I have something to tell you, something you might not expect." Trump raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "All right, let's hear it," he replied, leaning forward slightly. The room seemed to hold its breath, hanging on every word that was about to come next. Alex hesitated for a moment, as if weighing the gravity of what he was about to reveal. Then, in a low, almost conspiratorial tone, he whispered, "It's about your future." The room was suddenly filled with a tension that had not been there before. The teachers, students, and even Trump himself all stared at Alex, waiting for the secret to be unveiled. "You don't know it yet," Alex continued, "but a challenge is coming for you. One that will force you to make a decision that could change the course of everything you've built." Trump's face softened slightly, and he leaned in closer. His usual bravado was replaced with a rare hint of curiosity. "What do you mean?" Trump asked, his voice calm but intrigued. The students around them exchanged uncertain glances, sensing that something big was unfolding. The air was thick with anticipation. Alex locked eyes with Trump. "This decision," he said, "will affect not just you but the entire country." His words hung heavily in the air. It was clear now that whatever this secret was, it was no small thing. Alex had just hinted at something so profound that it could change everything about Trump's legacy. The room was silent, the eyes of every student locked on Alex and Donald Trump. There was an unmistakable sense of disbelief in the air. The tension was thick, as if everyone knew they were about to witness something monumental, something that would change everything. But what? Trump, never one to shy away from confrontation, sat back slightly, his expression unreadable. He had dealt with pressure in many forms over the years, press conferences, international summits, debates. But this was different. There was something raw about Alex's words, something that hinted at a deeper, more personal truth. "You're telling me something about my future?" Trump asked, his voice a mix of amusement and genuine curiosity. His tone was still confident, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. He had always prided himself on being ahead of the curve, on knowing what was coming before anyone else. But this was new. This was unexpected. Alex nodded slowly, trying to calm the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. The eyes of the entire room were on him, and he could feel the weight of their expectations. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this, but he had already come this far. There was no turning back now. "It's not just about you, Mr. Trump," Alex said, his voice gaining strength with each word. "It's about the future of this country. The world is changing, and you will be forced to make a choice. One that could either solidify your legacy or completely undo everything you've built." He paused, watching Trump's reaction carefully. "But you won't be able to do it alone." The room seemed to hold its breath. Trump, always the dominant figure, was now listening intently. Alex could see the wheels turning in his mind, processing the words that had just been spoken. This wasn't the usual praise or adoration that Trump was used to hearing. This was something different, something that threatened to shake him to his core. "You're talking about the future of the country, but how do you know any of this?" Trump's voice softened as if he were searching for the truth behind Alex's cryptic words. There was a shift in his demeanor, an openness that was rare for him. His usual bravado was gone, replaced by a sense of genuine curiosity. "What's really going on here, kid?" Alex took a deep breath, preparing himself for what was to come. He had never imagined that he would be the one to deliver this kind of news, especially not to someone like Donald Trump. But the truth had to come out. If he didn't say it now, he wasn't sure when he'd ever get the chance again. "You're right to be skeptical," Alex said, his voice steady but urgent. "But there's a new force in play, something that's been quietly building for years, and now it's finally starting to come to light. There are those who want to change the direction of this country, to steer it into a new era, one where your leadership could either help or hinder." He hesitated, glancing around the room. The students were all hanging on his every word, sensing that something momentous was unfolding before their eyes. "And what does that mean for me?" Trump asked, his gaze now focused, sharp and calculating. "What kind of choice are you talking about?" Alex swallowed hard. This was the hardest part, the part that would reveal the true extent of what was at stake. "The decision you'll have to make is whether you want to lead through the old ways, the ways that have served you in the past, or whether you'll embrace a new path, one that might not be easy but could change everything for the better. It's a path that involves trusting others, putting the country before personal gain. A path that challenges everything you've ever believed." The room seemed to shrink around them. Trump's expression darkened slightly, his mind racing to comprehend what Alex was saying. He had always prided himself on his independence, his ability to make decisions based on his instincts and what he believed was best for his own interests. But this new path Alex was talking about, the idea of trusting others, putting the country before himself, felt like an alien concept to him. "You think I'm not already doing that?" Trump asked, his voice rising with a mixture of defensiveness and frustration. "I've spent my entire career making decisions that no one else had the guts to make. You think I'm just some kind of puppet who's been following the crowd? I've built an empire, kid. I know what it takes to get things done." Alex didn't flinch. He knew he had to be direct. "I know you've built an empire, Mr. Trump, but this isn't about empires. This is about something much bigger. It's about the future of the country, and the choices you make now will determine what happens next. The world is changing, and you can either adapt to it or get left behind." Trump stared at Alex for a long moment, his jaw clenched as he processed the gravity of the situation. For the first time in his life, he felt as though he was facing something he couldn't control. He was used to being the one in charge, the one who called the shots. But now, in this quiet gymnasium filled with students, he felt like he was standing at a crossroads, a place where the decisions he made could have far-reaching consequences. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Trump spoke again. "So, what do you think I should do, kid? What's the answer?" Alex didn't answer immediately. He wasn't sure if there was a clear answer or if he even had the right to tell Trump what to do. But there was one thing he knew for sure. Whatever path Trump chose, it would shape the future in ways no one could predict. The silence that followed Trump's question was deafening. The weight of the moment hung in the air like a thick fog. leaving Alex unsure of how to proceed. He knew that this wasn't just a casual conversation anymore. What he had just said wasn't just some random idea. It was a warning, a challenge to everything Trump had built, everything he believed in. And now, the former president was waiting for an answer. Alex looked around at the students. They were all as captivated as he was by what was unfolding. No one had expected a casual school visit to turn into a moment of historical significance. But now, there was no turning back. Trump's face softened, though it was still hard to read. His gaze flickered toward the window where the sun was starting to set, casting a warm, golden glow on the classroom. For a moment, he seemed to be lost in thought, as though weighing something deep inside his mind. But then, just as suddenly, he snapped back to the present, his eyes locking onto Alex's. "So what's it going to be?" Trump asked, his tone no longer defensive, but something more vulnerable, almost uncertain. "What do you think I should do next?" Alex swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. He had expected Trump to push back, to dismiss him with one of his signature comebacks. But this was different. The weight of Trump's words, his willingness to listen, felt like a rare, almost fragile thing. "I'm not here to tell you what to do, Mr. Trump," Alex replied, his voice steady despite the intensity of the situation. "I'm just here to show you the path. It's up to you to decide if you want to take it or not." Trump leaned forward in his chair, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. "A path, huh?" he said, almost to himself. "I've been down a lot of paths in my life, kid. Some good, some bad, but this one's different. I can feel it." There was a long pause as Alex processed Trump's words. The former president wasn't just asking for advice anymore. He was contemplating something far deeper. The old Trump, the one who had thrived on bold moves and gut decisions, was starting to question the very foundation of his leadership. And for Alex, that was a sign that he had made an impact. "You're right," Alex said, his voice growing more resolute. "This is different. This isn't just about politics or power. It's about the future of everything, the country, the world, everything you've ever worked for. You can either stand your ground, keep doing what you've always done and risk losing it all, or you can step into the unknown, trust others, and build something that could last forever." Trump's eyes narrowed as he processed Alex's words. "You talk about trust, but you're not the first person to try to teach me that lesson," he said, his voice low but firm. "I've trusted people before, and they've let me down. Why should I believe you now?" Alex met Trump's gaze without flinching. "Because, Mr. Trump, this isn't about anyone else. It's about you. It's about what you believe in and what you want to leave behind. You've been given an opportunity to do something few people ever get, to make a real difference. And the world is watching, waiting to see if you're willing to take that step." Trump sat back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk. His mind seemed to be racing, his thoughts tangled in a web of possibilities. For the first time in a long while, Alex could see doubt flickering in Trump's eyes. He had always been so certain of everything, so sure that he knew what was best. But now, the uncertainty was palpable. And Alex couldn't help but wonder, was this the moment when Trump would finally break free from his old ways? "You know, kid," Trump said after a long silence, "you've got guts. I'll give you that. Most people would have never dared say what you just said to me. But that doesn't mean I'm going to change overnight." Alex nodded, understanding the weight of Trump's words. "No one's asking you to change overnight. But sometimes all it takes is one small step, one decision that sets the course for everything that follows." Trump stood up abruptly, walking over to the window and staring out at the setting sun. His reflection in the glass seemed to grow larger, more imposing, as if he were confronting himself as much as the world outside. The decision that Alex had laid before him was not something that could be made lightly, and yet, in that moment, it felt like he was closer than ever to making it. "I've always been a man of action," Trump said finally, his voice quieter than usual. "But this is different. This feels bigger than anything I've ever faced." Alex didn't speak, sensing that Trump was processing something monumental. The room was silent again, save for the soft sound of Trump's footsteps as he paced back and forth. And then, In a voice that was barely above a whisper, he said, "Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time for something new. Something bigger." The room was thick with tension as Trump turned away from the window and faced Alex once more. There was something different about him now, a change in his eyes, a shift in his demeanor. Gone was the unshakable confidence, the brash leader who had commanded attention in every room. Instead, there was a vulnerability that Alex had never expected to see in the former president. "I never thought I'd be standing here listening to a kid tell me to rethink everything," Trump said, his voice cracking slightly. He paused, taking a deep breath. "But you're right. Maybe it is time for something new. Maybe it is time to finally listen." Alex stood still, not daring to move, unsure of what to say next. This was the moment where history would be made. He had come into this room thinking he was just another student with a question for a former president. But now, he was witnessing something far greater. A man, a leader, confronted with his own humanity, with the weight of his legacy, and with the possibility of change. Trump's gaze softened, and for the first time there was no wall between them. "You know," he said, looking down at his hands, "I've spent my life trying to prove myself to the world. I fought for respect, for power, for everything I believed was important. But I never realized what really mattered until now." The words hung in the air, heavy with regret, heavy with truth. Alex watched, stunned, as Trump's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I've made mistakes," he continued, his voice trembling. "I've hurt people. I've caused divisions. I've chased after things that I thought were important, but in the end, I've lost sight of what really matters." Alex took a tentative step forward, his heart racing. He wasn't sure what had brought this change in Trump, whether it was the weight of the years, the burden of leadership, or the conversation they had just shared. But one thing was clear. The man standing before him was no longer the same man who had entered the room. "And what really matters?" Alex asked softly. Trump looked at him, his eyes filled with emotion. "People," he said, his voice breaking. "It's about the people. It's about the future. It's about leaving something behind that isn't just about me, but about everyone. My children, their children, the world we're going to leave behind." For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. No words could capture the weight of what had just been shared. Trump, the man who had once stood tall and firm, was now facing the truth of his own vulnerability. And for the first time, he understood that his legacy was not about the battles he fought or the victories he claimed. It was about the lives he touched, the decisions he made, and the difference he could still make. "I'm not sure what comes next," Trump said, wiping a tear from his eye. "But I know one thing. I won't make the same mistakes again. I can't." Alex could hardly believe what he was hearing. The man who had once seemed invincible, untouchable, was now open to change, open to growth, open to listening. It was a moment that would change not only Trump's life but the lives of those around him. Trump walked over to Alex, his hand outstretched, not in the usual show of dominance, but as a gesture of humility. "Thank you," he said, his voice hoarse. "Thank you for reminding me of what really matters." Alex shook his hand, feeling a surge of emotion that he hadn't expected. He had come here to ask questions, to challenge a leader. But in the end, it was the leader who had changed. As Trump turned to leave, he paused at the door, looking back one last time. "This isn't the end," he said. "It's just the beginning. I've got a lot of work to do, but maybe, just maybe, this is the moment I've been waiting for." And with that, Donald Trump walked out of the room, leaving behind a legacy of change. A change sparked not by power or politics, but by the simple, profound truth that it's never too late to listen, to learn, and to grow. The room was silent for a moment longer, the students left to process what they had just witnessed. It wasn't just a conversation that had happened. It was a transformation that no one would forget, a moment that would live on in history. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories.